Hey Internet, it's been a while, and I'm going to do a video. Now this time, it's not about games per se, but it kind of is. See, as much as I love games, I also love movies, and one thing I really like to do, and I'm sure you've noticed if you've seen this channel around October, is to just talk about movies, and kind of explore, not just the plot and the overall movie, but the cinematography and everything around it. And I just really like to kind of break things down and discuss movies and what makes them good or bad. And one thing that I can't believe never occurred to me to do before was talk about game movies. But I know people have talked to death about the terrible ones like Blood Rain, or Blood Rain, and the really good ones like... Well, if a really good one happens, I'll let you know. But what I want to do is talk about ones that not many people have talked about, and not many people might even be aware of, and that would be some of the video game fan films that are out there. There's quite a few, some being made about the bigger game franchises that just, for whatever reason, seem to fly under the radar. So this time, I'm going to tackle a couple of those, and just let you know what I thought, how they are overall, and whether or not you should waste the time looking them up. Now the first one I'll mention is a 2010 film made by Blue Core Studios called Mega Man. I'll go ahead and let you guess what franchise it's a fan film for. Now this movie is actually surprisingly good. It's feature length. It's, I think, an hour and a half or close to it, maybe a little more. And it's honestly not bad. So if you want a quick reaction, there you go. It's not bad. But I'll get into it more. The plot is super standard. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. Light makes robots. Wily turns evil and reprograms the robots. Light makes Mega Man. Mega Man beats robots. Wily gets away. It's what you expect. But that's not the whole thing to talk about. One of the first things I'll say is it was made in 2010, and it is a fan film, so the budget probably wasn't super high, and therefore some of the effects probably not the best you've ever seen. For a lot of the Robot Masters, for example, they had humans for half of them, but for the other half, they tried to do CG. And it's not the worst CG I've ever seen, not even in major movies, but it's also not great. I'm going to show some on the screen right now.
I'd like to present the Robot Master DRN series, the world's first commercially released robots. Each Robot Master serves a purpose that is beneficial to mankind.
So you see what I mean. It's not awful per se, but it could definitely be better. It's kind of on par with like Reboot, for anyone that remembers that. No, maybe it's a little better than that. Definitely better than the end of Spawn. But I'm getting tangential. Basically, the CG's not great, but you can look past it watching the movie. But I do want to talk about some of the things that actually stood out and made me say that it was pretty good. For example, the acting is actually not bad in this film. Some of the line reads were maybe a little dry, but overall, it felt pretty good. Everyone was good in their role. Wily especially. The guy affected the accent from the Saturday morning cartoons really well.
Hello, I'm Dr. Albert Wily. In addition to that, each bot has been outfitted with the latest internal reaction energy technology. Each bot has an internal energy source which allows it to use its specific abilities.
Now, this is...
And he played the character well. I really liked how that played out. Proto Man wasn't bad either when you see him, and I'm always happy to see Proto Man. Yeah, overall the acting, it was pretty decent. Like, no one's winning an Oscar for it, but at the same time, they're probably not getting a Razzie either. It's really, especially for an indie film, where direction is sometimes lacking, or experience is sometimes lacking, the budget barely exists. It's just, they did a good job. They did far better than I did in the movie I was in. So, you know what? All credit where credit's due. And I did mention Proto Man, and another thing I should point out is that the music in this movie, or the score rather, did use a callback to the Proto Man theme, and some other Mega Man themes. Mostly Proto Man, which was amazing. I absolutely love that. Once I heard that, my opinion of the movie immediately got better, because it's just an amazing theme. So, good on them for using that. But overall, actually, the score in this was pretty decent. You know, the music... Like I said, there were definitely callbacks to Mega Man. There was, of course, the Mega Man 2 theme, because they're not going to not have that. But it was good. The use of music was good. There was never a lot of silence. They did a good job with the score. But let me again talk about some of the things that maybe kept it from being like a great movie. Now the visual effects I already talked about. The CG is not amazing, but I wouldn't expect it to be. They're not going to have the budget or the tech for that, so that's forgivable. But there were a couple things that were a little weird. Dr. Light, for example, at one point when he created Mega Man, one of the first things he did was refer to him as son, and then later when Mega Man said, "You must be my father," he reacted very strangely. He's like, "Well, in a sense," but then goes on to call Roll his sister and just refer to them as children, basically. And it's this whole thing where it creates a paternal dynamic, and then for that one instance, he's like, "Well, not really. Just slow your roll there, Mega." And it was weird. I don't know why they felt that was necessary. That was really strange. And also, speaking of unnecessary things, there's at one point where Mega Man is having basically like an identity crisis. He's not sure what his purpose is, what he should be doing, all of that. But it also kind of veers into the Pinocchio territory where I wish I was a real boy. And it was just strange that it went that direction. It wasn't really needed. I don't know why they did that. That aspect of it kind of went away really quickly because then all the evil Robot Masters attacked and he found his purpose. So, all's well that ends well. It was just, I don't know why they thought they needed to throw in the human dynamic there. That was strange. It was kind of unnecessary. It was a minor thing. It doesn't really detract at all. It was just, it felt weird at the time. And then also I can say the action was a bit lacking. It was a little anticlimactic. Again, I know they can only do so much with the budget and the effects that they have, so that's fine. I won't count it against them too much, but I do wish some of the Robot Masters would have come across as more of a struggle. The Yellow Devil did way more damage to Mega Man than any of the Robot Masters, which, if you played the game, is fair. That thing's a bastard. But it was just, it felt a little too easy. The first half of the movie or so is just kind of setting up the whole thing of Mega being created, figuring out who he is, Wily becoming evil. So by the time we get to the action where he's fighting robots, I feel like it's maybe a little rushed. So they just trimmed out all the actual conflict and just basically Mega Man attacks Robot Master, Mega Man beats Robot Master, on to the next bit. So I wish they could have fleshed that out more, made it look like more of a struggle, just made it more of a challenge for Mega Man. And then the last small complaint I have, and again, a lot of these are small complaints, is that the sound effects, not the score, but like the effects themselves, definitely needed work. A lot of times when the robots were fighting and hitting each other or just landing from a fall or shooting or whatever the case was, the effects were very muted. They all should have been a lot more just impactful and loud and meaningful. I mean, this is two killer robots fighting each other, basically. You know, when one of them punches the other, it should sound basically like a tank driving into another tank. When Mega Man shoots at something, if it hits the robot or misses the robot, whatever the case is, it should sound like an explosion. It should sound like something just blew apart. And really, it was a lot of very minor thuds and clangs and just really underwhelming effects. And again, I'll play some so you know what I'm talking about.
I'd like to see you try.
So yeah, those weren't great. I feel like the sound production there and the sound design could have been a little better and just it make everything feel a little more impactful. But like I said, it is still a pretty good movie. I loved the soundtrack. The acting was decent. I actually liked how they kind of changed the lore slightly and made it so not only were Wily and Light friends, but at one point Wily worked for Light. And then Light fired him because he wanted to go his own direction in creating Mega Man, or Rockman, because this does use the real names, Rock and Roll and Blues for Proto Man. So that was that extra bit of motivation for Wily as to why he wanted to prove himself to be so great, and specifically better than Light. So that was kind of cool. Again, I love the music. I love a lot of the callbacks. Proto Man's appearance was, of course, amazing. It ends with him standing on a roof, just like the intro in Mega Man 2, which again is predictable, but it's what the fans like. You know, sometimes fan service works for a reason because the fans want those things. So, yeah, overall, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the worst way to spend an hour and a half. If you're a Mega Man fan and you just want to see what a video version of Mega Man could be, give it a go. You probably won't be terribly disappointed. Also, at one point, Roll and Rock are playing an NES, which I thought was just a fun little Easter egg. The only thing about that is it's really weird that they decided to play Contra, which is, of course, a classic Konami game and not a Capcom game. I just thought that was funny and weird. Of all the games they could have picked, they didn't pick one from Capcom. I mean, obviously you're not going to pick Mega Man. That would be just fourth wall breaking and immersion breaking, but it could have been Ghosts and Ghouls. It could have been Darkstalkers. I mean, that's a different console, but you know what I mean. They had other options, so it was weird that that's the way they went, but it was fun, and I liked it anyway. But I will move on and talk about another movie. This one was actually also made by Blue Core Studios 3 years later, and this is a Sonic fan film. Now this is just a short. Basically, it's the first act of the movie, more of like a teaser. Unfortunately, they didn't finish the movie, and now that we have 2 official Sonic live-action movies, I doubt they ever will. But this was also pretty cool. It was made 3 years later, and by the same company, so they did get a little better. The CG in some parts was better than it was in Mega Man. Overall, it still has a bit of that early CG kind of Uncanny Valley stuff going on, but it was significantly better for sure. Also, they did get Jaleel White to do the voice of Sonic, which, for those of you that don't know, he was Urkel, but he was also the voice of Sonic in the animated cartoons. So getting him to come in and do the lines for this was just absolutely incredible. I still think he is the voice of Sonic, even with the new live-action movies. His voice is always the one I want to hear out of Sonic's mouth. So I love that they got him for that. There's also a bunch of other cameos by, online video game YouTuber people. Brentalfloss and The Nerd and Nostalgia Critic all had brief little cameos in there somewhere. That was really cool. Overall, they couldn't do a whole lot with the story because they were kind of building the story. Like I said, it's just the first bit of the movie. They didn't get to finish. But what they set up was really cool. Robotnik did his thing. He came and took over Mobius, and Sonic wants to restore life to everything, and Robotnik had gotten rid of all the sentient animals like Sonic, so he's basically the last one, and everyone else is humans or robots. They show the Master Emeralds for a bit, or the Chaos Emeralds for a bit, rather. They even tease Knuckles a tiny bit, so it's a fun setup. It would be cool if we got the rest. Because we didn't, you maybe don't have to watch it, only because you're going to be disappointed you don't get to see how it ends. It ends with Sonic running through Green Hill Zone, similar to like you'd see in a level, with the big loop and all the graphics like you expect.
Now this looks interesting. Let the fun begin.
And that's kind of where it ends. So you don't get any of the real fights, you don't get anything cool like that. You just get a bit of build-up. It's fun, it's interesting. I would have liked to see where they went. All the music in this was just original score. We didn't get any ties into the Sonic soundtrack, which is disappointing because it's very iconic. But Mega Man was similar for the first half of the movie. Until we saw Proto Man's theme a decent way into the film, we didn't hear any other Mega Man music, and then later on in the film, they referenced a few more songs from it. So I assume Sonic would have went the same way, where it would just be, background score and stuff, and then once the story kind of builds up and there's a good climax and some meaningful moments, we probably would have get some iconic Sonic themes, but it never made it that far, so we didn't. So overall, it was well done for what it is. It definitely had potential. I would have liked to have seen where it went, but because they never finished it and they never made the rest of the movie, this one you can probably skip. It's not bad, it's just unfulfilling because you don't get the closure. So yeah, those are the first two I'm going to talk about. There's a couple other fan films I want to do as well, and I'll make another video at one point talking about them. But I don't want these videos to be giant and super long because no one will watch them. So yeah, I'll end this one here, and then next time there will be a video with two other ones. And then I will make a video game video at some point too, I swear. I've got one in filming, it just has a bunch of stuff and it's taking forever. So yeah, more stuff on the way, and hopefully you like this video, and if you want to go watch that film with the Mega Man and all the shooting and the boom, then go ahead and do that thing. And now I'm just rambling, so bye.